Mhm. Yes. No, it's not. It's YouTube, so you have to be here to participate.
Oh.
Mhm.
So you have to be there.
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, welcome all. I'd like to open the October 5th Village of Marvin Fall Town Hall meeting, Wednesday, October 5th, 2022. I show the time at 6:32 PM. Since everybody is here, we have a full quorum. We don't need to allow council members to participate remotely. So first off, I'd like to need a motion to adopt the agenda, or if there are any changes.
No,
No changes?
no. Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Well, first up, welcome all that have come for town hall. We appreciate you making the effort to come out here. This is our first town hall in the new town hall building. So our goal, I believe, is to have this twice a year at least.
Well,
2 times a year?
we're going to do three
3.
coming up.
Okay, very good. Well, there
So-
may be an extra one.
Yep.
But before I go any further, I'd like to introduce some of my colleagues and our staff members at the village, if you don't already know them. Kimberly Vandenberg is Mayor Pro Tem. You have Jamie Lyon as our council member, and Bob Markleese as well to my left, Andy Wortman, and Wayne Deathridge. As far as council and as far as staff goes, we have Christina. You know what? We labeled you town manager, but this is a village. So I started thinking, do I call you village manager?
Does it say village or town?
Yeah, so but I thought we had a label for you of town manager, but you're officially the village manager. So if you haven't met Christina, she's a can-do type person, so welcome her as well. We also have Austin Yao, our clerk.
I
And-
apologize for being out of camera shot.
That's okay. So he still looks good. He still looks good. He cleaned up nice for those of you that can't see him on YouTube land. We have Hunter Nestor, our planner, and Jill, Jamie Bays, our finance officer. And I think Jill is running the computer over there. Jill Carilli, she's our executive assistant and planning technician. And I don't see Derek. He's our public facilities manager, but Derek Durst is always around here or usually at Eford Park a lot of times. I'd also like to point out we have one of our officers here, Tommy Gallus. And so welcome, Tommy. And also Ed Swan is back. So our 2 full-time officers, if you don't know them, please take the time to get to know them and introduce yourselves. We've got a variety of different topics today to talk about. I think just basically to make things simple, I will have our staff or council members who's ever presenting to do their presentations. We'll get through this, so make sure we can hit on all topics, and then we'll go into questions. If you're here for what I call pitchfork issues, we're okay with that too. Just be respectful. Tell us what your concerns are, your complaints are. We're here to listen. More importantly, do you have a solution for something that you feel is not going right? So, but we appreciate it, and we can't, I understand, take calls from YouTube land. So if you're only here is the only opportunity you'll be able. So plenty of time for questions at the end. Let's see, I want to check my list to make sure I got everything. Yep, we will move right into communications update. And I show Austin.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Just to really touch base, make sure you are signed up for our residence list. That is how you're going to get our communications. It's how you get our newsletters, our any emergency information associated with whatever state of emergency we're in, whether it was COVID or like the hurricane we just had. Please follow us on social media. We are on most platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Nextdoor, and YouTube. Our newsletter goes out twice a month on the first and third Fridays. It's called the Marvin Wise newsletter. We're very proud that we're providing this high-quality product with this good information. We really hope that if you ever are reading this and you have any questions about anything listed, please call us. We're more than happy to give our time to you to really help you understand what we're working on. And lastly, just remember that any and all official village communications from our email communications, will contain the village seal. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Austin. That brings me to a point with the recent storm that we had, just kind of tell you how things work. It's the county that determines if there's a state of emergency. They determine it at the county level. Then the calls go out to all the mayors in every municipality. At that point, we sign a document to them, ship it right back to them. What that does is allow the sheriff's officers to come in and basically close roads if they think they need to that we have in our town. So it's really a directive saying you're okay to have your sheriffs do what they need to do to keep our town safe. One of the things that we did with the village too, as far as communications, is we do have a generator here. So we are prepared if lights were to go out. My understanding is they tend to go out quite a bit and the machine kicks on, but we have that as a backup for us as well. So from a communication standpoint. Thank you, Austin. Next up, we have,
It's still me.
oh, you're good, right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, we have wayfinding and branding,
Which is Austin.
which is Austin. See,
All
I'm
right.
not following this sheet.
So this is an exciting project. This is a chance for our residents to really show what makes Marvin special and why this is an amazing place to live. So really, these are two separate but interconnected projects. Branding, you're thinking logos and promotional materials. So what our vendor is going to do is they're currently hosting a survey online that everyone can take. It's just a way for you to share your opinions on how you view Marvin. They will take that feedback and feedback received from an upcoming public input meeting that'll be held on Monday, October 24th at 6:30 p.m. They're going to take that feedback from that meeting, the survey, and feedback received from some focus groups, and they're going to use that and some historical information about Marvin to develop a new set of logos. One for the community, could be some for departments like Parks and Rec, and then you would see some individual ones for events like the Marvin Day celebration. Like universities have their academic and their athletic logos, we would still keep our village seal. That would be our governmental logo, but this new logo would be to help market the community to any prospective residents, for example. The other half of the project, wayfinding, this is directional signage, which you would see in any downtown area or just within a town's municipal limits. Everything from the shape of these signs to the colors, the font, the color and shape of the posts will be consistent with that community logo. So that's a really good summary of it. Our committee that was appointed for this project is composed of 5 residents, a good mix of people that represent different viewpoints in the village. What's going to happen is they're going to meet at the end of October for a branding workshop where they will be presented with a draft brand. They will review it, recommend any revisions, and then they'll meet again to approve the design. And then at that time, the council will receive that proposal. They'll be able to either approve, request revisions, and we'll go from there. The wayfinding half will result in a plan for future years regarding the design, the fabrication, and the installation of these signs. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Please
Thank
take
you.
the survey.
What's that?
Please take the survey.
Yeah. At the end, at the very end, we'll just take questions just to make sure we can get through this. That's the only reason, John. Thank you. Next
Jim.
up,
Yep, good.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
Okay, next up, we have coffee with council, and I show Jamie Lyon, council member.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank everyone for coming out tonight. I recognize some people with coffee from Coffee with Council. Our commitment to being transparent in everything we do, in all of our communications, all of our activities, what we do is find ways to share that information with everyone, but also because we always see that people have concerns and they have questions, and there's information that's floating out there. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of information that is, I guess, what we would consider propaganda. And it's false information. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we provide every opportunity that we can to squash those falsehoods or maybe information that just is not truthful, but also to answer questions, to take on topics that people have questions about. And not only have we done, the Coffee with Council, we're now looking at branching it out with coffee with the deputies that are here. We're proud to say that not only do we want to do it with the constituents that are here, but we're also wanting to do it with the kids. So we're going to have coffee with kids. And, but it's a way for them to learn about what we do, the activities that we have going on. We've had several kids show up, and they walked away with a little better knowledge of what a council would do and the actions that they take and how they go about doing it. So we're very proud of Coffee with Council because, again, it's the avenue, it's the venue. We do it twice a month. We do it once at the beginning of the month, which is, and I think if you've got a packet, we've got one tomorrow night or tomorrow morning, and then we do it for those who can't come in the morning. In the daytime, we have it done in the evening. So we do it twice a month. But in addition to that, and kind of moving on a little past Coffee with Council, now we're moving towards doing not only 2 town halls, which spring and the fall, we're looking at doing 3 town halls. And again, it's our commitment to everyone to say, this is what we're working on. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you see something that's out there that you don't think is right, come voice your opinion. And we want to hear it, whether we agree with it or not. But we are going to be transparent. We're not hiding anything, and we want everyone to know everything that we're doing and what's going on in our community. So again, Coffee with Council, we're excited about it. We got coffee with the deputies, coffee with kids, and that's our way of doing everything we can to be stewards of information that goes out to the constituents. So thank you all for coming tonight. I wish we would have had a packed house. And Coffee with Council, we still have a bet about every Coffee with Council. We have a bet over and under, and that number has been significantly low. It's typically 2 or 3, and take the over or the under. And but anyway, we're there, and we're committed to doing it. And I hope that those that do have questions, those that do have concerns, issues, want to know what's going on and the truth of what's going on, take advantage of that to get the correct information that's out there. So thanks, everyone. And that's my Coffee with Council pitch.
All right. The only thing I would add, council members, that we rotate. So we look at the dates 3 months out, and we rotate and people pick it. So, but I will say this, I think it's fair to say, and I'll speak on behalf of the council members. If a Coffee with Council is coming up and you really want to talk to Jamie or Mayor Pro Tem Vandenberg, call us and we can see if we can change our schedules for that. We've been very flexible, but we basically pick and choose what's going to work on our schedules, but we'd love to have you. And more importantly, when we have our regular meetings, you've got 3 minutes to get up there and say what you can. We have a rule in the Village of Marvin that we can't respond to that because it has gone back and forth in the years I've been here. Somebody says something, the council members want to respond. So we've actually have a rule that we cannot respond. So we hear you out and we can maybe put it on the agenda or something, but that's why Coffee at Council works, because it's dialogue, it's back and forth, sort of like what we're going to have at the end of this meeting. So we appreciate it. And please, I know you guys have been trying to get people to come out. We appreciate that. There's a lot of issues and there's a lot of ideas. We had one from a young Boy Scout.
He came with a problem and he came with 3 solutions.
3 solutions. He came with a problem and concern and had 3 solutions for us. It's great to hear from a 15-year-old kid. I
Yeah,
think it was
14, I think.
14.
Yep.
So anyway, would love to have you guys. Thank you, Jamie.
And I'll go one step further. If instead of just switching times for the assigned coffee with councils, if anybody wants to make an appointment with us, email us, call us. We'll set up an appointment. We'll come meet with you in Village Hall.
Email Kim, call me.
Email me, text Joe, because he doesn't check email. So
I'm working on it. Okay, thank you, Jamie. Next up, we have ongoing residential and commercial development update. Hunter, I have you up as this.
All right, so just want to kind of go over where some of the developments happening, especially this year. So far this year, we've had 139 zoning permits issued. Just kind of a little breakdown of that is 28 for new home constructions. A majority of those are in existing approved residential subdivisions. I think there was about 4 or 5 that were just on individual lots that weren't into a approved subdivision. 18 for any type of residential upfits or renovations, 21 for additions, and then we've had 45 for accessory structures, and that includes pools and so on. So kind of going over what subdivisions are happening right now is that we've had 2 that were approved back in 2013, 2014, which was Belgrove and Broadmoor. Belgrove has been through 3 different developers. They're finally about to be finished. They have pulled all permits for all those lots, and the last 5 of those lots are now under construction. It's anticipated that the development should be fully closed out, including all houses being constructed and improvements being done by, I would say, summer of 23. Broadmoor, which was approved in 2017, was purchased by Beechwood Homes last December, and that's right down here off of Waxhaw Marvin Road. It's for 62 homes or 62 lots. They are now finally getting under construction there and in the early stages of the land development process. There's been 4 developments that have been approved probably within the last 2 years. One of those being the cottages at Marvin Gardens. It's the 55 and older community behind the Publix. They are also almost about to be fully closed out. I think there might be 1 or 2 lots that are still needing, a permit for construction, but for the most part, a majority of those lots have been constructed and sold. The Gates at Marvin, which was approved last year, it's a 6-lot rural subdivision here off of Waxhaw Marvin. One of those lots has been sold and almost fully constructed. The Estates at Marvin Branch, which is 16 lots off of Joe Carr, they are in the, early stages of land development and will be seeking their final plat approval within the coming months. And then finally, the Heritage subdivision, which was the 68 single-family homes development that was approved by the village back in August. It is the first Marvin Heritage District development, and tentatively, if they get all their applicable approvals from other agencies, they will begin construction in the summer of 2023. Commercial-wise, really the only commercial that is developed at this time in Marvin is Marvin Gardens. You have the Publix there, but since last year, you have 3 new tenants. You've got the Mexican restaurant and the Southern Gourmet. They are also wrapping up the 7-Eleven construction, in which I would think that should be opened up probably within the next month. The developers also moved on to phase 2 of the development, which you've got the Publix, you've got the Great Clips and Marco's right beside it. Then you have the 2 buildings to the right. So phase 2 includes an additional 10,000 square foot commercial space, and the development of out parcel 2, which is I can't remember the square footage. It's either 12 or 15,000. I think it's 15,000, and it's a 3 tenant space one of those tenants will be Dunkin' Donuts. All of that was part of their original approvals back in 2016. So that all is under construction currently and should be, I would think, the out parcel 2 with the Dunkin', I would think would probably be finished sometime in the spring of next year. As well as they finally installed the Welcome to Marvin sign. If you guys haven't been by there, looks great.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
Okay, okay, thank you. What's the difference? Is the outbuilding like where the Southern Gourmet is, or is that a out parcel?
That's an outbuilding. There's
That's an
four,
outbuilding.
at-
Okay.
on the Marvin Gardens development, there's 4 out parcels. Out parcel 1, which is along Newtown Road, kind of on the corner of Newtown and Providence, but it's more on the Newtown side. That's where the 7-Eleven's out at.
So an out parcel is like the stuff on that,
Correct.
on Newtown. So that's where so there will be a freestanding Dunkin' Donuts.
Freestanding, it will be a freestanding building, but there'll be 2 additional tenants within that
Okay.
building that Duncan will be in.
Okay, I got you.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Hunter. All right, next up, we have annexation update. I think that's you still.
No, you got it.
I'll take this one, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
In 2022, Marvin has annexed 2 homes that are essentially donut holes within the Weddington Chase subdivision. We've really recently refocused our strategy for annexation on targeting 1 large subdivision and then partially annexed subdivisions and donut holes. The council recently selected the Chimneys of Marvin as the first large subdivision to focus its annexation efforts on. We hope to have a meeting with them in January. We've also been targeting partially annexed subdivisions like Sedgefield and various donut hole properties. This mailer you see on the slide is something we sent out recently to really market our trash service and our faster emergency response times. That's all. That's the only update I have.
thank you, Austin. Moving on, we have next up, this is what I'm interested in hearing about too, is the Geo Bonds and road maintenance. And I show Jamie, you have that one.
Yes. So first, I wanted to talk about what is a bond referendum. And this is a voting process that gives voters the power to decide if the municipality should be authorized to raise funds through the sale of bonds for a specific purpose. And a Geo Bond is a long-term borrowing in which municipality pledges its full faith and credit and taxing power to repay the debt over a specified term. And Geo Bonds are the least costly financing option available to the village to finance major capital projects. So why issue bonds? And bond financing is used for major capital projects that are above and beyond the scope of what's in our annual operating budget. And a lot of times these are used for facilities or infrastructure and roads or parks. And it's for items that will be used for many years in the future. So next, you all might be wondering why the village is seeking a Geo Bond. And the village is looking at the possibility of taking over all state maintained roads located in Marvin. And that way we can provide all residents with the equal standards and maintenance on your roads. Also, we are currently looking at a multi-year agreement with NCDOT to work out some level of payback to minimize tax impacts for residents. And we are also looking at considering including sidewalks, greenways, curb and gutter, private roads, and bike lanes.
And I'll just add to that real quick. Excuse me, sorry. The village currently has about 16 miles of road in their, in the Village of Marvin system. There's another 15, 16 residential streets that's in the NCDOT system. So about 50-50 of our residents are either in Marvin or on NCDOT streets. I see several of you sitting in the audience and most of you are on NCDOT streets. So some of you are on private streets as well. So what you've seen over the past is your streets are not at the standard that Marvin standards are. So you're probably seeing your roads break down faster and a slower response. You're also probably seeing no brine put down when there's storm events, whereas some of the Village of Marvin streets are actually done. So what we're trying to do is treat all citizens equal in terms of road maintenance. And we're looking at what those costs will be and also adding some other projects in if residents are interested. Jamie will get to the point of how the process works, but this whole process in the end will all be voter approved or denied. So once we do our research and our work to determine the project cost, the project scopes, citizens will have the opportunity to be educated on what that means for you all, and you all will make that decision as to if you want to proceed with that or not.
Okay, so getting to issuing a Geo Bond is a really long process. And first, council sets priorities and project scope based on citizen concerns. And obviously, there's many ways that citizens can bring their concerns to council. Meetings are all open to the public. We have special council meetings. You can always reach out on our website and send in concerns, which people do all the time. We also will be having several discussions about defining the scope at meetings. This will be a topic moving forward, a large topic that we'll discuss. We will have an engineer study the project and give us estimations on costs. We will have to submit an application with the LGC, which is the Local Government Commission. We are hiring an outside financial consultant to do a tax impact analysis, and then we'll have public education efforts just to, let all of the citizens know about the Geo Bond. So when will all of you see this on, or be able to vote on this? This will be on the November 2023 election. So if the bond is not approved, then the village will continue to take over roads as NCDOT resurfaces, which could take 10 years or more.
Is that all you had?
What?
Okay, is that all?
Yep, that's it.
All right, thank you. The only thing I'd point out is when we did take over roads, when I was in office years ago, it was a long time before all the roads, and it was always scheduled to be that way. So we, as a council, feel it's a little unfair. We're all paying the same taxes, so it makes sense to get it done. But more importantly, I think one of the reasons we're really considering this bond is our hands are tied with, for example, this roundabout that's everybody asks about, when's it going to be built, okay? Our hands are tied with the contracts when you work with DOT and the fact that they come to us and say, okay, any cost overruns, you're on the hook, Village of Marvin, for 50%, and we'll share that with you. So the frustrating thing with this, there's been excuse after excuse, whether it's a hurricane years ago, to COVID, to no lack of money. It was always a funding issue why it didn't get done. So one of the reasons proposing a bond is the argument would be getting it done in today's dollars. So if we go a couple of years down and that still doesn't get finished and we're on the hook for these 50% of the overruns, this is getting it. It's not an excuse of dollars anymore. So I think it's a fair way to kind of go about and also get things done earlier than waiting it out and being at basically the DOT tells us when and where we get those things done. So I don't know if there's any other comments from council members, but we've been putting a lot of thought to this. And in the end, as Amy said, it goes to a vote. You guys decide if that's something, and it's just a matter of getting yourself educated on why we would do something like that. So.
Mr. Mayor, one thing, if I might reiterate, is the fact that we are having those conversations with NCDOT to work out some type of agreement where we know those 16 miles of roads that NCDOT controls and maintains and owns currently today come as a liability, not an asset, because they're all in disrepair. So when we look at taking over the liability of something that's going to turn around and need hundreds of thousands of dollars in repair in the next several years, what we're trying to do is work out that agreement that DOT will pay for at least a portion, if not all, of what their liability is that we are taking over the course of 5 years, over the course of 10 years. Whatever it is that they would agree to, we would look to recoup that cost so that it's a less impact on U.S. taxpayers, as less as possible.
Thank you. All right. Without any other comments, I'm going to move on to our next topic, Marvin Heritage District, and I will turn that over to Hunter.
All right, so for anybody that does not know what the Marvin Heritage District is, it's a mixed use, like village center district the actual zoning district was established earlier this year in January. That was actually the zoning regulations that created it. It was created as a conditional zoning district, so it really made more of a when I say complex process, it was a more detailed process for applicants / developers to go through, as well as it did give the village and the public, more opportunities to have say in what's going to happen and what's going to go on within the district or within that proposed development specifically. Current status is, as I mentioned, there's been one rezoning application thus far. That was for the Heritage at Marvin subdivision, and that was approved back in August. Currently, the next steps is working with the property owners of this district. So it's 123 acres. I think there's 13 individual property owners, which I've had conversations with multiple, and they're all over the kind of spectrum of where they're at on if they're going to apply for the rezoning and have their proposed development ready, for that rezoning process, or if it's just still early conversations and what the next steps are. But with one already occurring this year, I still anticipate, anywhere from this time now to this time next year, probably 2 to 3 more. The other cool thing about the district is that it's a opportunity to provide walkability to, these uses, the commercial uses and so on that will potentially be in this district. And one of those avenues are the Marvin Loop grant that we were working on. Well, we've been awarded. We finally got the agreement with DOT, and so all that will be beginning. And so the goal is to have full sidewalk connectivity along Newtown Road, Marvin Road, Joe Carr Road, and Marvin School Road, and all that should be hopefully fully constructed by the end of 2025. Other than that, that's really all I've got on the Marvin Heritage update.
Thank you, Hunter. Next up, we have solid waste and recycling services. I have Jamie Bays.
So in April of this year, we began solid waste services, and currently there are 1,950 homes receiving weekly trash recycling and yard debris service. We had an annual bulk day in August, and residents were able to bring in large bulk items here for disposal. During the months of April, May, and June, we collected 130 tons of recycling, 17 tons of yard debris, and 538 tons of solid waste. Just as a heads up, Christmas trees will be collected throughout the month of January at the curb, and it'll be with your yard waste pickup. If your tree is larger than 8 feet, you should cut it in half. And they also said that make sure that you don't have any tinsel or any ornaments or anything stuck on the tree when you put it out there. And your 2022 tax bills included a $244 charge for solid waste services, which cover services from July 2022 to June 2023. And your tax bills are sent from Union County and collected from Union County and due on January 1st, 2023.
Quick note, you do not have to call in for your Christmas tree collections. They'll collect them already.
For the whole month of January, they'll pick them up. And that is it.
Thank you, Jamie. I think you're right back up again. Next up, we have motor vehicle tax update.
Yes, so council adopted an ordinance to establish a municipal vehicle tag fee, and this went into effect on July 1st of this year. So what is a vehicle tag fee? North Carolina state statute authorizes municipalities to levy an annual municipal vehicle tax upon any vehicle within the corporate limits, which it could be up to $30 per year. And this money has to be used for the overall purpose of street maintenance for public roads that are not within the state highway system. So our council decided to do $25 fee per vehicle. And a question you might have is this fee permanent? And no, the council set a 2-year sunset on the fee, which will expire on June 30th, 2024, unless council votes to extend that. So other municipalities around us do have this tag fee. Waxhaw is currently at $25, Monroe 30, Concord 30, Charlotte 30, Wingate 25, Kannapolis 30. And you might not see this tag fee in some other local towns because it's not needed if they don't maintain their own roads. So what will we use the revenue for? By state statute, $5 of the fee collected can be used for general use, but $20 of the fee must be used for maintaining, repairing, constructing, reconstructing, widening, or improving public streets in the village that are not part of the state highway system. And we're estimating, based on projections, that there are 5,700 cars in the village, and the estimated revenue per fiscal year will be $142,500 from this tag fee.
Is that all you have? Okay, thank you. And just point out that 142 estimate is about what we're receiving from Powell, if I'm not mistaken, right? Which also is funding that we get from the state that goes to, you get in the road business, it's not inexpensive, and this was a way to help alleviate those costs of maintaining and keeping the roads where we believe Marvin feels they should be, not necessarily what the state deems acceptable. Moving on, upcoming events. I think I have Jill. All right. Run back and forth.
Okay, so we have some really cool events coming up in the village of Marvin in the next, actually the next couple months, this quarter. The first thing we have is in the park. This is a first-time event for us, so we're super excited about it. It's Friday, October 28th. It'll just be an opportunity for kids to come in costume to Marvin Eford Park, go around, trick or treat, get some candy. We'll have a bounce house, photos, games, crafts, just a really cute family-friendly, not too spooky night for the kids. After sunset, we will have a showing of Hocus Pocus. We'll have the inflatable movie screen. So we're really excited about that. One thing that we are looking for is local business owners or community groups or anybody that wants to kind of have a tent, decorate it for Halloween, and pass out candy to the kids. So if you are a business owner or you know people that are, please spread the word. We would love to have more kind of trick or treat stations for the kids. The next thing we will have right after Halloween is our first friendship tree. This is basically the giving tree or angel tree program that you all are probably familiar with. So we will have our tree up a little bit early because of this, but you will be able to come in between November 1st and November 30th, take a tag off the tree, sponsor a child in Union County or an entire family. So we're really excited about that. We're hoping that Marvin shows up big and really shows their generosity to help some families this holiday season. We are also very excited to have our annual tree lighting again. So that will be Saturday, December 10th. There will be a Santa parade throughout the town of Marvin, and then right afterwards at Marvin Eford Park, we will have a whole bunch of festivities that we've had every year: cookies, hot cocoa, coffee, photo ops, all kinds of fun stuff, crafts, and Santa will be there to have pictures taken. So we're very excited. So save those dates. We hope that you'll bring your families out and that we just have a great event. All right, Parks and Rec news. So we are currently working on sort of revamping the Parks and Rec section of our website. We are going to try to have an events page, because if we're going to keep having all these great events, we want a better way to kind of showcase them and promote them. So we're working on that. We are also going to be rolling out a new technology in early 2023 that will make it a little bit easier for residents to book our facilities, whether it be the picnic area, the barn at Marvin Eford Park, or even to rent Village Hall. Right now, you end up having to call me and talk to me to find out when these facilities are available and kind of make those reservations. So we're trying to streamline that, make it a little bit more user-friendly, so you can go online, see the calendar, pick a date, book it, and you don't need to hear from me until I tell you you're approved. So that's what we're working on. We hope to have that ready to go by early 2023. We also have just some future events that we already know about for 2023. So we are going to have a spring movie night. We haven't quite determined the date of that. We are definitely having our second annual Marvin Day. Our first one was amazing. I'll talk about that on the next slide. But we do have the date already picked, June 3rd of 2023. We also already know that our National Night Out is currently scheduled for August 1st of 2023. Again, our trick or treat will happen again next year, October 27th, and then our tree lighting December 9th. So we'll have all these dates up and be promoting all next year for another fun-filled year of events here in Marvin. Park and trail updates. Okay, so we have worked quite a bit on either expanding or connecting some of our trails this past year. So at Marvin Eford Park, 1,500 linear feet of trail segments, more connectivity to the various areas and amenities. We finished that in the spring. The Preserve Internal Trail was 4,600 linear feet of natural surface. It can be accessed from Village Hall, so y'all can park here and hop on it if you want. And there's also going to be some future connectivity to Innisbrook and Marvin Creek that we're working on right now. And then Publix actually, for those of you that don't know, donated a pretty sizable piece of land at Marvin Gardens to the Village of Marvin. So we are going to be installing a really kind of neat trail that can be walked there, and also installing some picnic tables and just making what we're currently calling a pocket park, just a sweet little place to sit and have lunch and kind of let the kids run around and play. So that is, it's actually already starting and should be complete either by the end of this year or early 2023. All right, so I don't know how many of y'all went to Marvin Day this past summer, but we had a wonderful event. We were extremely excited about the feedback that we got from residents and also the number of people that attended. It was a crazy day of events spread out over tons of different locations around Marvin. Most of the schools, we also had things going on at Firethorn. Neighbors opened up their own homes and let people come and tour their gardens. So everybody was kind of all over the place that day. It was just a really neat kind of selection of all different events to attend. We think that over the course of the entire day, there was probably about 1,000 people total who came to the various locations and did something that day. Our 5K was how we kicked it off. We had over 120 runners. We also had a bunch of little kids do the fun runs, so that was really cute to see. We had a great car show at Marvin Ridge High School. We had, even though we had some inclement weather, our Marvin residents still kind of stuck with us and came out and were able to enjoy the Ryan Perry concert and the fireworks show. I don't know if you all realize that fireworks show was seen and heard all the way down at like Parkwood High School. People were posting like, what are these fireworks I'm hearing? So it was an incredible show. And we can't wait to do it again next year. So we're really excited about how that event turned out. Our
All right,
most recent, oh, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I wasn't sure because you were going through and I was just letting you roll because you're
Yeah.
going right down the line
I'm
here.
in
So
all these slides.
that's okay. I wanted to point out Marvin Day, at the end of the night after the fireworks were done, just watching people leave and stuff. We had to have over 500 people in the stands. So it was a show and it was put on very well. The concert was great. So it was, I think, fun for all. We got a lot of thumbs up on the way out as, we were saying goodbye to some people. So it was a really nice event. So.
Yeah. And it was totally made possible by a bunch of generous sponsors. We are super grateful for their support. 2023 Marvin Day is going to be even bigger and better. And we're currently out soliciting more sponsorships again from local businesses. So we just anticipate it being even better than last year as we continue to grow and improve on it. So we're super excited. Our most recent event was National Night Out. We had that August 2nd. We really didn't know what to expect for turnout. In this kind of like post-COVID, people are finally starting to get out and do some things. But we had, the turnout completely blew us away. Like, we actually ran out of food halfway through, and we're running to Publix and buying up a bunch of food so we could come back and cook some more food for everybody. But it was amazing. The turnout was huge. People had a great time. The kids were playing. We had a bounce house. We had, a fun vendor there. We had live demos. It was just a really great event overall. Again, thanks to some very generous local businesses. Our sponsors are up on the screen there. After dusk, we had a showing of Encanto, and it was just a really great night overall. So we were blown away by the support and the number of people in the community who came. We were very excited, and just again, anticipate growing and just kind of improving each year. So we're really excited about the turnout. And I want to just emphasize the most important part of National Night Out is our law enforcement. So that they are why we do it, and it is to bring people from the community together with law enforcement to strengthen those relationships, to just, especially with our youth, we want to make sure that law enforcement are not something that they're ever scared of. So it's great to kind of have all the law enforcement there, and everybody can kind of visit the booths, and everything else we do is just extra. So that's really the focus. And thank you to you, Tommy and Mason. They did an incredible job getting all of the different law enforcement folks there with we had a SWAT truck and we had canines, just so much cool stuff. And I know it was a lot of work on you guys as well. So thank you so much for your efforts, and what a great night that was. We recently celebrated our ribbon cutting here, even though as a staff and council, did you all have something to say about National Night Out before I go?
It's amazing though, but no.
Okay.
No, I just had, I had Christina on for this one, but are we giving this to Jill?
She's on a roll.
She's on a roll. Yeah, this is your mom. I was just looking at all this. You haven't been busy at all lately, have you?
No,
That's great.
I've got nothing to do.
Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
So even though as a staff and as council, we were able to move into this building at the end of April, of course, we had, it's like moving into a house, y'all. You have a lot to do to kind of get it ready, but we were very excited to have a ribbon cutting ceremony officially. We had that early September. And it was great. We had residents come out. We invited a lot of local elected officials from the county level and state level. We had quite a few of them come and attend and show their support, which was amazing. We had a really cool kind of food display in here, and it was just really nice for council was able to walk around and give people tours and show them the building. So we love it whenever residents come in and want to tour the building or visit and meet with council. We were really excited just to be able to kind of celebrate, because this building was a very long time in the making. And there were many people even before this council that you see this was a long time goal and dream of theirs for many people that served even before these guys, so to see it finally kind of come to be. And to have it be so beautiful. I hope you guys are proud of it when you drive by. It's a beautiful building. I know we're very proud of it. So it was a great evening, and we were very excited about it.
Good job.
Great.
Oh, is that my done?
Thank
You want to do roundabout?
No.
Thank you, Jill. And all I can say is who better to recap all of that, because you were in the middle of all of it. So thank you for all your hard work and all of staff, because we put them to the test, I think, last year. I think council would agree that you guys did it with flying colors, and really shows off Marvin and what we're all about. And I'm looking forward to Marvin Day for next year. And a lot of exciting things happening, but we appreciate having you on as staff and making all the little things happen behind the scenes. So we appreciate that. So thank you for recapping. Okay. All right, next up, we have Village Hall, Marvin, a Newtown Road, it's not moving on here. Okay, Marvin, Newtown Road roundabout update, and I show both Christina and Hunter for this one.
So I'll just start off by saying this is probably the most important project that we have at play right now. This has been going on for 2018 is when we first signed our contracts with NCDOT. It's been pushed back several years based off of funding from DOT, basically, us competing with other projects in the district, and then from a state standpoint. What you see right here today is kind of the answer that we have right now as we sit here today. However, we know that it's going to change in the next month. A lot of things are riding on the county for approval on a pump station before we know if that fourth leg parcel will be donated or if it will have to be condemned. So condemnation process takes several months. I don't have that timeline here in front of me, but it will add to the scope of the project in terms of the timeline. And so that summer of '23 will actually be pushed back if condemnation is required. So a lot of variables with this project. That's what we have sitting here right now today. However, if things don't get approved at the county level to have that land donation happen in the next couple of weeks, then that summer of '23 could potentially turn into fall of '23 or even summer of '24. A lot of variables. I know y'all have a lot of questions about it, but unfortunately, we're letting DOT handle the negotiations with the property owner, and so we've kind of taken a step out of that. But I know y'all probably have some questions on that for sure, but that's
Hunter.
all I have for you today.
Hunter, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, the only thing is that I believe the condemnation process from what DOT told me, I think it was a 45 to 90-day process.
That's without court hearings.
Okay, yeah, but
We prefer not to be in the condemnation business, but, you know, some of these things can't be avoided if, you know, we have an opportunity here to have it donated. And we'll see that meeting, I believe, is October 17th for the county commissioners.
That's what we've been told.
Yes, and that is on the agenda to be put up for a vote. I will say, when it comes to roundabouts, this council, you just don't put them together. If you get approval on anything, it takes normally years, 4 or 5 years, and then delays for whatever reason. But this council recently, there was potential funding with CRTPO, which is part of Charlotte Regional Transportation Group. I'm on that committee. And the county came to us because there was an opportunity for a future roundabout. And I will just say this, that this council voted to approve it. That may be considered in part of the bond effort, and that would be on Bonds Grove Road. So Bonds Grove, where is another serious bad line of sight and serious concerns. And we're hoping to get that done before the widening of 16 happens, because that's likely one of the locations where they will take to get out of Marvin, or as far as keep moving if they're trying to get to work or get home. I was at the county commissioners meeting on Monday night. They brought it up for vote, and they basically put all their eggs in one basket, and it was an opportunity. We thank Bjorn for that, that he had proposed it to us, and we had a time frame to decide to approve the $500,000 that we were on the hook for. And then county, just so you know, the county approved it as well, their share, or the $500,000 to move forward. So to Bjorn's point, he jumps on any opportunity he has. And again, even though we approved that funding, that is estimated to be, just so you know, a $5 million project. Now, this roundabout right here is about 1.3 million. That one, they're estimating to be over $5 million. And again, I'm sorry. Oh, 1.8. It was 1.3 originally. It's moved to 1.8, so the overruns are coming. But that one down there, and that's still 4 or 5 years out, I would guess, before they are
27.
2027. Okay, but the planning starts now, and you know, we want to support all residents of Marvin. We know there are issues down there. If you live in that neighborhood, we travel it probably weekly ourselves. My family does. So, but just wanted to give you an update on that, what the county's doing, what we're doing, and this is looking forward for these type of roads. All right. Anything else, Christina? And
No,
that
sir.
gets us to our final point of general questions. I guess the rules were to take some questions from the audience. We can't do it from YouTube, so I see a hand that went up. Yes, I'm sorry, yes, Wax on Marvin and Bonds Grove. That has been looked at years ago. We had companies come in and redesign and look at that. The other option is a red light. Probably would fail immediately. And I remember last year I would take my kid and I thought I'd be smart and go down past trying to make a left turn to drop my kids off at school. And it's a mess down there, backed up all the way to Waxhaw. And when they start widening that road, you will see that will be a likely area where they divert to get through, which means traffic. And, you know, I went to a meeting recently at Waxhaw. Traffic, it's coming. Regardless of what we try to do, we just have to plan for it. And the planning starts now, and this council has been very forward thinking when it comes to stuff like that and how we can sort of tackle those issues. And stuff. Anything
Mr. Mayor,
else? I'm sorry?
If residents have questions, they don't come to the podium, if we could just reiterate the question so that
Okay.
the recording reflects what the question is, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
so that question was obviously about the roundabout, and that is at Bonds Grove and Waxhaw Marvin. Yes. Okay. John? Well, I think,
No, nothing's been decided. We're looking at all the options in order to pay for that. And if we do, the question was, are we planning on using the vehicle tax to pay for the roundabout at Waxhaw Marvin and Bonds Grove, or are we looking at the general obligation bond to do that? And has anything been decided? The answer is no, nothing's been decided. We're looking at all the different options, what's going to make the most sense. Because if we do decide to put a general obligation bond out there, then it doesn't pass, then we're going to have to go the other route. So we're really kind of trying to look at all the different options, but nothing has been decided.
so the other thing I'd like to point out is one of the reasons we are aggressively going for the annexation. Think about it. There's all these neighborhoods that are right in the heart of Marvin, yet they don't pay Marvin taxes. They get the benefit of our police officers, that includes even Waxhaw residents for that matter, to direct traffic and all these people that live here, but they may not be paying a Marvin tax. So by bringing in those communities, nobody wants to pay a tax if they don't have to. So it's a volunteer program. And we are trying to look at different neighborhoods that would make sense and thoughtfully put together why they would want to become part of Marvin. I would argue the biggest reason for that would be to have a voice. Meaning that if you're Providence Downs over here on the corner across the street and you have an issue with the state, the town, the city, who's your representative? You can go to state legislature and complain to them from an HOA standpoint, but here you have a town that we, you know, can make things happen. We've seen it done, and we formed recently, Andy and I are on a group called WUMA, which is Western Union County Municipal Alliance. It consists currently of Marvin, Weddington, Wesley Chapel, and Mineral Springs and Stallings. And it's not necessarily that, you know, we're trying to float ideas back and forth. We meet monthly as well. We're probably going to bring in Waxhaw, hopefully. The offer, I think, is out there. But we meet with them. Andy and I go to almost every meeting. We're always there. And it's a way to share ideas about if certain towns had problems, how do they deal with it? They may have a resolution for something that they would not like to see happen, and they would ask us, would we join up with them? We're in the process right now of doing some resolutions to it. So it's a way to coordinate with other neighbors, especially the ones that are right next to us, and that area in between. It's not a municipality. So it's not part of Marvin. Maybe it's not part of Waxhaw or Weddington. It's just unincorporated. Those are great opportunities to increase the tax so we have a bigger budget to look at that rather than just adding the tax to the current Marvin residents. Yes, John. That's, yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Question being that, how do we, I don't know if it's impose our rules that we have or ordinances that we have, whereas if we bring in a development like, the ones that we're talking about, they may not fit the current Marvin standards, or they may have a gate. Okay, I'll
Let's let
let
Austin answer
Austin
that
handle that then.
and
and-
ask the question.
Yes, the
Austin.
question was about whether our voluntary annexations will have an effect on a statutory annexation, which, John, I think you're referring to an involuntary annexation.
Okay.
The village, we don't currently really do those. We're not allowed to by the state until 2024. They have changed the rules around involuntary annexations repeatedly. So before we would do anything, we would, of course, consult with the village attorney. As far as I know, none of our voluntary annexations would affect our ability to do that at this time.
Okay, thank you. Yes, question. Okay.
I'm sorry. Can I stop you really quick? Can you come up to the microphone? Because this is going to be a really long question and I want to make sure we get it so we're not trying to repeat it. Thank you.
No problem.
The roads. That would, well, not necessarily all of them, but yes, in general, yes, we would be taking
Okay.
over the roads.
So,
But I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we would make sure the roads are up to the standards that we require. So it's not like you just turn them over. Similar to what DOT does and what we've been working with them. Before we were to take a road over from DOT, we would make sure it met at least their own standards. And
right.
we've followed standards. I think we followed the Waxaw road standards, if I'm not mistaken.
You have a road acceptance policy. I don't know the standards off the top of my head, but it has to be a certain standard from our specs.
Yeah.
So you.
So we're not just taking anything. So that neighborhood would have to figure out if their roads and our inspectors went out there and said, you need to do this, this, and this, they'd have to figure out on their own to get it up to that level. Then we officially would take it over.
Okay, so
That would be the plan.
when you're annexing, you're not necessarily at that point taking on their roads.
That's correct.
My concern is that we've been annexed. I don't know when my neighborhood has been annexed, but I've lived there almost 10 years. And I just now got the potholes fixed in our neighborhood, and that was because I stayed on DOT and poor Christina like crazy to get it done. So that's my concern, also, and that goes to the vehicle tax fee, because you were talking about 5,700 cars, 4 of which are mine. And
I've got a
based
few.
on what
Mine
those
too.
monies are going to, I'm not really a recipient of any of.
Me neither. I have 4 cars and my roads haven't been done yet either. I feel you.
Firethorn's been repaved.
I don't live in Firethorn. I
Well,
live in Innisbrook. So
Some
yeah.
of the larger, newer neighborhoods have been repaved. You're not driving on gravel that's supposed to be paved.
Right.
That's my concern. And I'm all for including, I totally agree. I think incorporating these outlying neighborhoods and into Marvin makes sense. It makes sense from a tax standpoint. But I'd like to see our neighborhoods, Beechwood, Valhalla Farms, Providence Estate has been paved. They are right across from us. And not real clear why we weren't paved when they were. That would have made sense. But that's one question. I like the idea of the Geo Bond. I think that's great. And I would be
interested to see how those monies would be allocated towards bringing our roads up to standard and the much needed, thank you, roundabout out at Bonds Grove. So I'm
Right.
pleased to hear the thought process behind that.
So one of the things we've done is we've had our engineers, it's not like we're picking and choosing as council.
No, I understand. I totally understand that.
Okay.
I do. I totally understand that. But it would seem to me that NCDOT knew they've had those roads under their jurisdiction since probably they were built back in the 80s, 70s when they were originally set. So it seems to me that they should have money set aside for maintenance of these roads, right? And I've asked about that. Well, where is your fund to maintain? And that's probably the same question with the roundabout that's never been built, that should have been built when the dog bone went in. You know, a lot of that does not make sense to me. I think too, there's areas to start looking at how the state manages road money and pulling our pieces back, because I pay taxes there too. We all do. We all pay.
And I think if you went as a resident or even as a town, when we went to DOT and said, when can we have our neighborhood roads finished? And they have shared with us that they can't even get to secondary roads, let alone neighborhood roads. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why we did do this. However, with our tax rate at 5 cents, then now 6 cents, it is very hard to just all of a sudden think, but we feel, I think, in general, that it's sort of unfair. We're all paying the same tax, but we don't have the same thing. So that's, again, another
Right.
reason for that bond. Get it done. Let's take it over. And we coordinate. We don't have a roads department. We don't have trucks. We don't have that. We try to coordinate with DOT when they are working on certain areas, that they pull their crew instead of moving equipment all around, or say, okay, this is a great time to do this neighborhood, whatever it is that they're doing. So
To that point, I don't mean to interrupt, but to that
okay.
point, on the vehicle tax fee in particular, we don't get our roads solved. You know, we're not my neighborhood is not and we have 3 roads. There's
Right.
2 cul-de-sacs. I mean, but we're paying taxes that, in my mind, I'm not receiving the same services that exactly what you're saying
Yeah.
in the reverse, right?
Yep.
So I would just ask that you keep that front of mind in terms of, and it sounds like the bond is
Yeah, and that's
the best fix there, but I don't like paying $100 for something that I'm, I don't feel like I'm getting
yeah.
anything out of.
No offense, but your argument is not new. We've heard that quite a bit. And there are, in fairness, part of Marvin, there are roads that are private that they don't want to have taken over. And they want it to be as it is. And then you have potential other neighborhoods that are gated that we would accept, would leave and keep the gates, and would say, you know what, you're going to keep the gates, then you own the roads, and that won't be part of Marvin.
Mhm.
But there's all these different neighborhoods. We're dealing with some neighborhoods that want to keep the roads, like the potholes, like the gravel, that sort of thing. Maybe they have horses that, run up next to them. We're trying to deal with all of it. And I think in fairness with this council, we're looking at how do we solve that?
Yeah.
How do we make it fair?
Yeah.
And, we could raise taxes but we can get more money coming in by closing the areas that are not annexed into Marvin. That's a considerable amount of money that's right here that we get no support from the state of.
I totally
It's all voluntary, so it's hard to get people to volunteer to pay a tax. But then we're like, okay, let's think bigger. And
Right.
Kim had a great point when we started talking about this, is like, if we're going to do it, let's think of everything that we want to do, the parkways and stuff, the things that we can enjoy that we're paying for now. And I hope we can get to that point. I hope if this bond thing goes well, this referendum, with proper education of the community, there's going to be a reason why they would want to jump in. And our key is really having DOT work with us on that too, because right now they're not necessarily wanting to sign up for that commitment. They like to keep their commitments very short. Don't look out 5 years and stuff. So it's a challenge on our end.
To her defense, hopefully, her neighborhood will be repaved next year.
Yes, we're like waiting with bated breath if the roads hold up.
Okay,
that long.
well.
So I wanted to just say thank you for the town hall. I think this concept is desperately needed. I think there's a lot of conversation that needs to be had and a lot of back and forth. I appreciate the opportunity, and I think when it comes to things like the Marvin Heritage District, the Roundabout, maybe having those focused with that as an agenda item primarily might be helpful. I think there's a lot of people that would like to understand what's going on and what the deliberations are that aren't necessarily understood. And so anyway, thank you.
That's our challenge. A lot of it gets, to Jamie's point earlier, it goes out there and I will say right now, for the record, if you're going to Nextdoor to get your information, you're going to the wrong place. It is so filled with.
I do comment on it
Yeah.
vociferously.
Right.
Because what I'm hearing on Nextdoor, not by council members, but by proxies, or so it seems, is at times feels disingenuous. Perhaps it isn't, but it feels disingenuous. And so this is the forum for this information to be discussed. And I'm appreciative that we are finally here.
And we're trying to include, even with the coffee with council and expanding that.
Agree.
There's no reason you can't make a phone call to any one of our staff members.
Speak to the
Yes.
council at large. I think that's
appreciate that.
important. I like the different perspectives. I listen to the YouTube meetings. I'm not able, I have kids going to activities across the county, which I actually have to leave for right now. But I appreciate this setting as an involved individual. I listen to the work sessions. I listen to the council meetings. So I am not an uninformed resident. And I try to do my best to do due diligence. I'm not perfect. I've missed the bar, but I do try to do my due diligence. But again, I appreciate this forum. This is, I think, the best to settle those types of issues.
Yeah, we've been getting great feedback from, it's to Austin's credit as the media and the communications. I mean, we have a communications twice a month, work session, and where we're at. Did we check the box off on that? Are we communicating that?
Yeah.
We're doing a lot better. We're getting a lot of kudos, I believe, from a lot of people that say, look, and it's really, I would argue maybe the residents' fault if they're not getting it. It's very easy to sign up. The information goes out,
Yeah.
and we're trying to get it in so many
No,
different
I
ways.
think the newsletter is great. I'm very appreciative of that. I signed up right away. I've been on it for years. I
Terrific.
do feel like I know when things are happening, what's going on, but things of this nature that are particularly maybe sensitive or whatever, I think this forum is great. I would have liked to have seen a little more advertisement for the town hall, to be honest. I was waiting.
The ribbon cutting? Oh, this tonight. Okay.
Yeah, this
Okay.
tonight.
Okay.
This first one. I mean, I saw it on a newsletter. I just saw it on Nextdoor earlier this week. I think if we can get that out earlier, then residents can make a point to, mark their calendars.
Okay. So just earlier, not necessarily different
Just
media?
earlier, yeah.
Okay,
yeah. I think
okay.
just putting it out.
Fair enough.
And saying, hey, come,
Yeah.
we're talking about this subject, whatever. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for your comments and your time. Jamie, were you?
No, I was just going to say real quick that certainly greatly appreciate that you showed up, and we've got a lot of residents here. When we talk in regards to next door, and someone puts information out, and let's say it's true, for all intents and purposes, it's true. Let's just say it's untrue and it's propaganda, whatever you want to call it. We as a council, we cannot go, we can't go on next door and go, oh, that's not true. And here's this, this, and this, because it would be coming from an individual and we have to collectively do that. So as we all know, government runs extremely slow. It crawls. So if there's something put out there, we can't just go out on next door and respond to it, nor should we, because it's got to be a collective voice. So with that being said, to your point of wishing that this would have been put out there, this was something we decided on not too very long ago, because we do see things that are out there and we want to address them. So we typically have 2 town halls. Now we're looking at 3. We have coffee with council. Every time we have coffee with council, we have a couple people show up. So, and we've even offered, if you have an HOA meeting, invite us. I'll gladly come out there and anyone else will come. We want to be a part of that. We want to hear what you're saying and we want to diffuse all the propaganda that's being out there, because there's propaganda that's being put out and it's false. It's not true. And we're going, how many different ways can we do it? We do it through social media. We do it through coffee with council. We do it with town halls. It's still going to be out there. And I wish that we could have a communications director that could say, okay, someone had mentioned this, that's not true. But here's the true part to this, the truth to this. We can't, because we don't have a communications director and has to run through council to make that happen. But, again, we are here for any constituent to answer any questions, to address any issues. And we've come up with countless ideas to make that happen. And a lot of times we hear people say, unless there's a backhoe and they start digging, no one's going to show up. No one's going to say anything. And, but they're important issues and we do want to hear from you. Thanks so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. Can we,
So we can hear you. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you for coming.
I have 2 problems.
Okay.
I also have 2 solutions.
It's good.
You know, I live in Bellgrove.
Yes.
We've had a lot of problems out there. We've lived through 4 developers. We've had to come to the village, the county, and the state on our own to get things accomplished out there. But 2 of the things I believe the council could fix is, one, when the developer came in, there were no construction dumpsters out there. So we went to the county and the county made them put a construction dumpster out there. However, all they did was nail 4 4x6s together with no bottom and throw stuff in there. They're not large enough to hold the construction debris. We had construction debris everywhere, blowing everywhere, piled up on the streets. And what they would do is they would bring in a piece of equipment with a claw on it and go down and lift it up and then run up and down the street to the dump truck where they dumped it. Well, what happened is the little stuff does not stay in that claw. So out of the 11 original owners out there, 6 had to replace tires. One of them even had to replace a rim. And some of them were very expensive because some of the cars and the tires, $400 or $500 for a tire. We feel like the village should make them use a regular metal dumpster like most construction sites have, where the truck comes in and lifts the dumpster up itself. Because the streets are not swept. Some of the localities here make the developers sweep the streets. We even had to go to the county to get them to wash the streets because the streets weren't being washed. But if they're not swept, then all of that little construction debris, which is blown or dropped out of the claw, gets all over the street and you can't see it if you're driving down the street. Second one is you have conservation areas which are allowed if you do not have a certain size lot in the
development. So you allow them to do a conservation area to make up that difference. We have a 25-foot perimeter around the development plus a conservation area. Most of the perimeter is fully forested with trees. However, there is one section of 5 or 6 houses where it's actually is weeds now. It's not there are no trees. It's just an open field. The conservation area is also an open field. The problem is there's no ingress or egress to this area. And the HOA, when it's turned over to us, is responsible for taking care of that property. There's no way for them to get to it. So when you're considering a conservation area on a development, please keep in mind that you need to have ingress and egress to that so that once the developer is out of there, the homeowners can get in there to maintain that property.
That development has been in place for how long? It started, I think, right when I got started.
Well, the original development started in 2013. The first houses were in 2016.
And that's what I remember too, 2013, it was approved back then. And I think I would say this, we're learning as we go. And being one of the first developments, I mean, curb cuts would have been nice in there, all these different things that we learned from that particular development, we've put into ordinances in place for things as we go forward. So that's, I guess, the good news, that it's, tough to just come in and build something like that. But have you reached out to, because I don't know if we have restrictions with the builder that we can just demand that they put that in, or how does that?
So we just recently changed our nuisance ordinance from one page to multiple pages. If I'm not mistaken, Hunter, you did address the dumpster issue in that nuisance.
Yeah, mainly from a dumpster standpoint, any type of permit, as in building permit from the county, they're the ones that do building code enforcement, and they fall under their cleanliness and keeping their site maintained and all that through the county ordinance, and they enforce that. When we did our nuisance, we did include some of this where we do have avenues to make sure that we have ways to enforce and keep people accountable, even though the dumpsters that Empire installed were not necessarily traditional, as I would say, but
That's a very kind word.
yeah, they
I've
weren't.
been to their location,
Yeah.
I've been to your house, and I've seen that. And even just if it's a simple, why are they driving that tractor that's picking up the trash up the road to dump it in? Why isn't the truck right there?
Well, they just go from house to house to get that,
I
and
see.
then the truck just parks in one location, and they just run up and down the road.
Trust me, in my years, and even, just seeing development, I've typically they get a contract or something with some some trash provider, and they have 2 or 3 dumpsters on site. I don't even think that any of the developments here in Marvin outside of that have ever experienced that. So we do have avenues, but as we move forward, that's stuff that we can also work on strengthening our ordinance to make sure, to once again, make sure those requirements are more clear or just outlined better to make sure that the developer meets that. And if they don't, then we definitely have parameters in place to make sure they do or fine them. So
Maybe you can call Webster too and get redefined the term dumpster, because I've seen that. That's not a dumpster.
No, there's
It
no
isn't.
bottom in it or anything. It's just
Right,
4 4x6s nailed together.
right. So
The ingress egress is very important since the homeowners will be the ones who will have to maintain that area. And if there's no way to get to it, how
How
are
do you
they supposed to
maintain
maintain it?
right.
They have to
right.
cut the grass some for the weeds somehow.
I don't know where that.
yeah, no, trust me, with Belgrove, when it got approved, I think, to your point, it was one of the first kind of newer developments in Marvin. And a lot of that just wasn't thought out. If you look at newer developments, their conservation or HOA areas all kind of abut up to the road or have some type, if it's the preserve where the trail, ways to access it. I know even the preserve has 2 to 3, I think, access easements to get back to their detention pond / maintenance for their HOA properties. when Belgrove got approved, none of that was really kind of thought out. So I mean, it's definitely, I don't know if it's ordinance specific, but it's definitely something, you know, that I do now with any type of new development. That's something that's definitely thought out. And it's just, yeah, that burden of Belgrove being a approval in 2013, and our ordinances have changed a lot since then.
So is there a fix?
I've discussed that with Empire. It's really the fix is there's no fix. I mean, unless some property owner, either at the current moment with Empire or future on with the HOA, grants them an access easement to get back there. Empire was able to get back there and maintain, but because they were developing the lots. But to get to where it's at, no, I mean, there's no fix that we can enforce to do. And I mean, outside of having some type of now private property owner grant an access easement for the HOA, long-term to be able to utilize a strip or something to get back. Their conservation land in theory actually does abut up to the road, but it's all wooded and there's no way to really, where she's talking about being maintained and mowed, it's all behind, private property.
Does the village not have an easement for greenways? Where
We do,
they're talking about?
we do,
There's no way to get to that either because it's heavily treed.
yeah, where,
Very back side, that's where all the greenway goes across or goes through 2 backyards. And then it goes around 1 yard and goes through another yard. That's where the conservation area
But
is.
it's got to abut the sidewalk at some point, because I mean, we can't
it's
just.
the greenway, that greenway easement originally starts at the front of the neighborhood of the sidewalk that's along, Bonds Grove.
Okay,
The end of it, when it was proposed, was actually to come out in the cul-de-sac across at the end.
yep.
And the very end of that easement goes past or goes through the backyards of those 2 lots, and then it comes down in the tree preservation strip. So really the only way the access, I mean, for that to potentially be utilized as an access easement would depending on equipment, and I think that easement at the tree perimeter, the 25-foot tree perimeter buffer is only maybe 10 feet, I think there, maybe 15, but they would have to, you'd have to remove trees and everything to then utilize it to get equipment back there. So it's,
Well, maybe we need to remove some trees in order to get equipment back there to
I mean,
maintain it. I mean, I don't know what else, like,
the greenway would have cut a 4-foot swath through the trees
anyway.
Yeah.
anyway, so that would have been part of the original plan, is to have that cleared at least enough for the greenway. So it seems like it would be feasible to use our easement to be able to.
Access.
and I'm
access it.
not an attorney, so whatever I say next is not legal advice, but that easement is granted to the village for the greenway. When the HOA, they would have to get their either approval from us or approval from the property owners / the HOA, because that tree preservation strip does go through the HOA, to use it as an easement.
But can we not develop it we can develop it as I mean, it's our easement, so we can develop it as a greenway. We don't need
Correct,
the
yeah,
HOA's
if we
permission to do that, correct?
if we develop a greenway there, then yes, and we can allow for them to utilize that, that trail and that easement for access to the.
Can we
Have
not
to
just,
develop
even
the
if we
whole
don't
thing.
develop it, the whole
Just-
thing right at this exact moment, can we not at least clear enough space for them to get equipment back there in order to maintain it?
I do not see why not.
Okay.
There's
So,
one way you could get in with equipment, but the property that sits on the lot across from where I am, and you've been there, so you know, that property, I don't know if the house was not placed in the correct area where it was supposed to be, but that homeowner has told us that there's only 21 feet between them and the Mott property. Well, the easement is 25 to 30 feet wide. So there is a very small area of trees there, which you could get equipment. There's a path that goes through there that the deer use all the time. It's wide enough to get a lawnmower back there, but I don't know if that house is not in the correct area, is that property theirs or is that property the easement?
No,
That's a whole nother ball of
the-
wax, but
That house is 21 feet off the side property line, and there's an additional 25 feet, which is
in the rear.
no, on the side. That is the actual.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that property owner was maybe getting confused on thinking that there's a fence out there, which is actually the property line
Okay.
of Belgrove and the Mont property. So come 25 feet off that fence, that's the tree preservation strip that's owned and maintained by the HOA. And then the actual property owner's line starts on the edge of that 25 foot.
Okay. So I would say, you guys talk and figure out what we can do to help facilitate clearing some of our easement
Well,
land.
Empire has cleared it now because they went through lot 15, which they had not developed yet, and got back there and cleaned it
Oh,
up.
so you can get a piece of equipment then if you utilize our easement.
Long-term, yes.
Yes, long-term, yes.
But what's short term?
They've already.
It's, they
accessed
cleared
to a
it.
Vacant lot to
Lot
mow
15
it.
and cleaned it up.
Oh, okay. But yeah, long term, yes. So.
Yeah, we're more concerned about long-term. And I don't know if it'll be solved tonight, but at least.
That's what I'm saying. Like, let's get together.
We get
offline
it. And I
figure
will
this
commit
out.
to you that, and even if we have to go back out there, and I know the Motts personally, I don't know if that would help if we talk to them and see if there's something that they can help
I don't
out
think we
with.
need
if
to,
there's
though,
something.
from
But
what
if
you're
we don't
saying.
need to.
The other thing, I will mention that Empire they brought this up / we had this conversation when we asked them to go out there and clear that conservation property. I mean, that was an ongoing thing. That most of the conservation property does go through a 150-foot wide Duke Energy easement. The other option is potentially work with Duke and get maybe to shared use or some type of approval through them but I mean, I don't really know still where to directly access it because that easement is still abuts up the private property, but it still crosses road at a point if long-term for maintenance to get back there, use that easement.
It was my understanding that Duke did not know they put the conservation area in their easement. Conservation area is in the Duke easement. And Duke was not consulted about that. Just
Okay.
for
Seems
future
like-
reference,
yeah.
to make sure there's ingress to your conservation area. We appreciate all the work that the village has done for us because it's been a lot. We understand that. And the same with the county and the state. Lily has been wonderful out there with our stormwater problems, which
Good.
we've had a lot of. So we appreciate everything that's been done to help us.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming out and thank you for the solutions too, not just concerns, but appreciate it. Any other questions? I know you.
Gary Rose. Really don't have a question.
Okay.
A couple comments. Lot to unpack tonight. The branding, the bond, the Heritage District, the annexation. A lot of good stuff going on, which is great. The roundabout, obviously that's going to, depending on what the county's going to say about that. So we're not going to go into too much detail on that. 'Cause I think it's just kind of wasted breath until the county gets what they're going to do on that. We'll probably have that discussion later. But I just want to say, I appreciate the town council. You guys have done a great job with transparency and communication, the coffee with council. You guys made a strong attempt to really involve the community. And we appreciate that. And we appreciate the opportunity to be part of the conversation and part of the community. So thank you very much. That's my only comment.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions? Well,
John, you had an earlier question during the wayfinding and branding section. Did you want to? I'll let Christina ask the question and then answer it.
So the question is, a couple years ago, the village went to a couple of HOAs and some of them started changing out their signage their street blade signs, the street names with the village logo. Now, obviously, if that logo changes, the seal will still remain the same. So our seal, hopefully, will, looks like that. So that doesn't really change. It would be up to the council at that point in time if they wanted to implement some type of strategy to start changing out name blades, doing a participation with HOAs like we did in the past, to have shared participation, or just going ahead and changing them all out altogether. So that's a decision that this council will make when that time comes, but it is an option that I think they would consider.
Bond.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
The new buildings that are going up, will you be able to see the back of those buildings from Providence Road? Because the back of buildings aren't very attractive. They usually have dumpsters and things out there.
I think, go ahead.
But yeah, so the way it's set up is, yes, the back of the building will be seen from Providence Road. It depends. I know like for 7-Eleven, like they have a sign on the back, but all their dumpster and all that screening has to be to the side. That can't be seen from the road. So physically, the only thing you would see would be the back facade of the building, and then potentially any signage that's on it. But that sign the signage has to be compliant with what the ordinance states, which is very restrictive and detailed with that.
Do a shameless shout out to the restaurant there. There's a couple. There's Marco's, which we're now using, and also the Mexican restaurant's a great little Mexican restaurant. Love that place. We've been there a few times. And the key is you're eating in Marvin, you're eating in Union County, so.
And Southern Gourmet.
And Southern Gourmet. I mean, I don't want to just pick on just a few, but I haven't been to Southern Gourmet yet, no full disclosure.
We
But
need to do that, Joe.
what?
We need to do that, spread the love around.
We're
All over.
gonna spread it all around, but encourage you to, and that's kind of one of the things that stays in Union County, because when you go to Blakeney and all those other places, you're really helping Charlotte schools and their county situation. So we're slowly getting there. So, any other questions? Well, again, I'd like to thank staff and thank the council for being here and being prepared to do their presentations, and more importantly, you all for coming out, spending the time. If you have some questions after that you didn't want to necessarily ask, I'll stick around for a little bit, but we appreciate you guys coming out. And for all those listening, again, encourage you to do the Coffee with Council. That's your time to speak up.
Which is tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
And you and Bob are there, I think I see.
Me and Bob Reno.
Yep, so, and I might even do it.
Come on in.
See who shows up there, so, yep, James.
For this crowd that is here, this very large crowd, we'd like to ask you in this setting, are there things that you feel that we should be doing different? Because we've kind of been throwing it to you. Because you see, we do hear things on Nextdoor, which is one of the reasons we have this. We do see there are false information that's going on. And the only way we can address it is through coffee with councils and town meetings and such. So I'll just throw it out there. Do you see something else that we should be doing, or you feel we could be doing different, better, that make you feel better about this council and what we're trying to achieve? John?
Thanks, John.
Thank you, John. And just so you know, that there will be an additional council member added as of 2023 in the election. So if you're interested in running, would love to talk to you about how we can help you out and direct you how that happens. It starts in June, as far as signing up at the Board of Elections. But I think we have Jamie and Bob will be, and myself will be running again. You guys are staying on, but we're adding one additional person. And personally, I'd like to see, from different areas, maybe on the western, over in different eastern side, I'm sorry, southeastern side, representation, but appreciate the comments really, because I think especially you probably know, you're probably more worth of knowledge that you have in this community. And I appreciate all the things that, the knowledge that's up here is appreciated, but you've seen also at times a very turbulent council that has been a challenge. But I can say this, we may disagree, but we can still go have a beer together and be respectful of each other. And that's much appreciated. But more importantly, when you can work together, you get things done. And I can tell you, there were a lot of things we were checking off that have been on the agenda for quite some time. And to have you here and not having to rent a facility or crowded in the small building that we were in, this is really something we're proud of, and we hope you are too. And we'll still be adding to things. We're getting some soundboards coming in to help with that. We'll have a big board up here that you'll be able to.
We'll have a
see.
full AV system next week.
Yeah,
Finger crossed.
well, I say under promise and over deliver. That's the way you keep people happy. But again, thank you, and we really appreciate your time. I don't know if any other council members want to say anything. We don't have a spot for that, but you're welcome to chime in. We're good? All right. With no more questions,
Motion to adjourn?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.